So a couple videos ago, I opened one of these guys up with a heat gun. I don't recommend it, I never do, but it works. So you can do that, but you shouldn't. That's what I said in that video. So if you wanna see that video, just click right there. Let's open these things up the right way now by taking out all the screws and popping it in the oven, and it'll be easy. What's up guys, I'm Chris and you're back at FlyRyde, where I'm gonna talk about the what, how, and why of custom automotive lighting, and this one is all about how to open up these Mazda RX8 headlights. Okay, so we've got what we need here. We've got our drill. Thank you, Milwaukee, I love these things. We've got a nice little screwdriver to catch the flyaways. We're not gonna pry with this, we're just gonna use it to go around the light and catch all the little strays. Something for our screws, and a little mat that we can use. Make sure that this thing has no debris on it, because we're gonna lay the face of the headlight down, lens side down, on that mat. First thing you wanna do is just inspect it. Make sure that there's nothing obviously wrong. I hear little shaky stuff in there, so I know it's gonna be a little bit dirty inside already, but I can see where all the screws are. Let me just pull them out super fast, time-lapse style. Now for this, we're gonna leave our ballast on because we're gonna cook it at just over 200 degrees for about 7 minutes total. This will be fine. Bulbs all stay intact. I get that question a lot. Do we leave the bulbs in or do we take them out? We're gonna leave them in. So everything's good to go like that. Now, just one more once over, make sure I didn't miss anything. And I will take this bulb, twist it out of place, remove it, and twist it back in, just to make sure if that bulb could catch on anything, it won't. Last but not least, this little bracket on the side is not doing anything for me, so I'm gonna pull that, and we should be good to go. So I'm gonna set my watch for about 5 minutes. I wanna check it at 5 minutes, just make sure nothing is, I don't know, like touching an edge or it hasn't shifted positions. Then I'm gonna go and give it another 2 minutes just to make sure that everything's nice and soft, and I'm gonna take it apart by hand, no tools. So let's let the 5-minute clock count down, and we'll get in there and tear them open. So I checked all the tabs. They're actually still pretty stiff, which means if I try to kind of bend those things open, they're gonna snap. We don't want that. We wanna let it sit for another 2-3 minutes, get nice and soft, but not to the point where it's just like you push the plastic and your finger makes a print. That's bad news. So that's why we're running low temp. We've got it right now at 220, and it still needs another couple minutes. So I'd say 7 to 8 minutes around 220 should be a perfect time. Another thing that I like to do is when I go to take the headlights out of the oven, I like to have a pair of gloves, just whatever gloves, as long as they can kind of protect my skin from the heat. I like to do that, but then I also like to put a second layer of gloves that are disposable, so latex or whatever you need to use. If I get anything sticky on the gloves as I'm working, I can just peel the layer off, toss them, and then I'm good to go, and I can just put on a fresh set if I need them again. Otherwise, you end up getting a bunch of rubber butyl, the glue, stuck all over these things. Here are another couple tools that we are not gonna use, but it's worth showing that there are cool things out there like that. That's actually a crazy little tip that it goes in and then it pries open, right? This will help you with very stubborn lights. We're not gonna use that. We're also not gonna use something like this. This would be if you actually really wanted to get in there and clean out all the rubber butyl. I guess you could use something like this, but what it's really made for is the perma-sealed headlights. Perma-sealed headlights are gonna be your BMWs. A lot of domestic cars have a soft perma-seal, but these are import lights, which is why I like to focus on imports, and why I suggest if this is a side hustle thing that you're doing to make some money, do it on imports first until you're dangerous, till you've just like done that job 20 times over, and then move on to other types of lights if you even want to. Otherwise, own your space. Be the man at the Mazda RX8 and just do a whole ton of those things, because you'll know what to expect every time. You'll know where all those screws are at, and you don't have to hunt around / forget something, snap it, make a mistake, cost you money, cost you mainly time. When you're going from car to car to car and all different types of lights, it costs you lots of time. So I say be the master of 1 or 2 things, destroy that market. Just be the guy all over Instagram that's just got nothing but RX8 headlights, because it won't be me, I promise. I don't want to do a bunch of Mazda RX8 lights. I will do one set, that's this set, and I will show you a couple little steps that I do on the next video, some special ideas that I have. But enough about that, let's dive back into opening them. So you're about 5 minutes in at this point. If you are getting anything out of this, hit that like button, smash the subscribe, and definitely leave a comment if you have any questions about what I'm doing here, or maybe how you could do this to a set of lights that you have. Also, if you do subscribe, hit that notification icon so you don't miss the new uploads. Okay, so the very first thing we want to do is find which section is going to be easiest and not that one because it's kind of buried. So we're gonna wanna come over here, bend these guys up out of the way. And by the way, if this is not hot enough, I'm gonna stick it back in the oven and not fight myself like crazy. Last time I opened them, I did it by using the heat gun and it sucked. This is another thing too. You can't just think super buff thoughts and just yank on this. You really gotta be careful that you don't hurt the plastic. It's not the newest car. This is something you should pay attention to. One tab is gonna wanna go back intact. So you wanna lift up on it, just ever so slightly so that it'll clear, and then give it another little tug on the seal. And now it has cleared that tab and it's not gonna go back in there. So now we're at the part where I wanna slide the lens this way. I wanna keep the back bucket that way. So I'm gonna brace one hand here and pull towards myself. And you can see now it has just cleared and created a nice little gap right there. That's really the way that you wanna do this. I am going to catch all the little flyaways. The first time I use a tool is just to catch glue. Don't pry with the tool. There's no reason you should be prying the plastic. If I pry on the plastic, it's gonna create an inconsistency in the shape of that channel. The channel holds the glue keeps the light sealed shut. So what if there's a big bump in the channel and the glue doesn't really cover that bump? Now a pocket of air can get in there, and then it's a hot day, something changes in the glue, there's a little bit of extra air, water seeps in, your dope lights that you spend a bunch of time building are collecting water inside and you feel dumb. I'm gonna just keep opening this up and that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not really more to this. I will tell you this, as I'm going to open it, I can see that bezel inside, it does want to catch. I need to be careful and pay attention to how the parts inside want to work with each other. So what I wanna do in this case then is make more of a gap on this top corner right here so that I'm not pushing those parts together as I try to open it this way. Keep in mind, this was shut like perfectly all at once. So hinging it open, not necessarily the way that they want to be. And again, any of these little flyaways, the reason that you use the tool is just to keep your plastic parts inside clean, especially the chrome, because once this stuff gets on the chrome, it's just not gonna clean up perfectly. And if you start rubbing on chrome, it's actually aluminized plastic, you will rub off the aluminum. Everything looks good. Nice, there's no issues with it. And I'm gonna take out the internals, and then we're gonna take it the next step, which is we need to get these lenses cleared up. So I'm gonna take my gloves off. We have 2 screws that we need to take out. And as you go, don't forget to be collecting all your little screws so that they're there later when you need them. And then last is all these little flyaways that we were catching with that screwdriver. We wanna make sure that they're pressed down on the lens for 2 reasons. Number 1, so that we can keep as much glue as possible for when we reseal. Number 2, so that it gets out of the way of this plastic as we go to remove it, because it will want to catch it as we lift past it, especially like right here. So if it's built up right there, peel it over, get it out of the way so that this can come out. And in that case, that was super easy. Even right there, it was wanting to catch. All right, so there's our nice little clean bezel. And now we've got these 2 beat up lenses. The only way that we're gonna get these lenses to be really nice again is if we reseal them back onto these empty housings. Here's a little tip that I do regardless of the fact that I'm gonna take these things in and get the lenses restored. Now the inside's perfect. You never, ever wanna touch anything on the inside. If it's extremely dirty, there are methods that you can do to very gently clean the inside. I just don't recommend it. If you're a pro, cool. I don't even need to say anything else. You already know what to do, but if you're not, I recommend against it. What we're gonna do in this case is put this lens back into place with the internal parts removed. This is a really cool way that you can accomplish a couple things. So first off, if you have a light like this, guess what? You can put it right back on your car and use your car without the fancy little trim. So if you're gonna be doing a project that takes you a while, custom paint, do it. Just yank out the internals, put it back together like I'm about to right now, and then use your car as you normally would. It actually kind of looks cool. You can see the projector looks way different than it did. The other thing is, if I'm gonna take these to get polished, it's way easier and better to polish these lenses on an actual headlight than to try to do it with them off the actual bucket. We don't want them off the bucket because if we're handling something like this and trying to polish the end, like very likely, almost 100% certainty, the inside is gonna get a bunch of crap in there. We don't want that. We're putting everything back together. I'm gonna stick these both back in the oven, and then they are gonna go to our local body shop that's gonna do a professional sand and re-clear job. You probably have a local guy that will do something like that, not professionally, but just roll up to your pad, 50 bucks, 100 bucks, something like that. He'll buff out the headlights, and then he should mask off the whole front of the car and then blast it with a special clear coat. But it will really bring back to life your headlights. I'm gonna link up my buddy Dustin's video showing when he got his Evo done. That guy did a great job. Where I'm gonna take these, it's gonna be more of a professional job, kind of like what they would do if your car was in an accident and one headlight was destroyed and the other headlight is used, but it's in kind of okay condition. What that body shop would typically do is place one and leave the other as is. So if they're smart and they're classy, they're gonna polish up that other light so that the two of them do look good, even though they didn't have to replace the other headlight. We're gonna take it there so we can get a nice professional job, and hopefully they can get the little scratches out. So this is not gonna be like hardcore ultra sealed well, so I'm not putting any extra sealant in there, but I do wanna make sure that it's as sealed up as it can be on just a quick push together job, just to make sure that the body shop doesn't have any issues with it or any big cracks for water to seep in. So if I really wanna be efficient about this, the best thing that I could do is just throw my screws back in, and that will hold everything in place, cinch it in nice and tight, probably tighter than I can really do by hand. And one thing that you want to make sure you don't do is over tighten, because then you're going to snap where the threads are at inside. It's not going to be as nice and polished if you know that it's just all stripped out inside. I will say this, on certain lights it will absolutely strip no matter what you do, and if that's the case and you are unfortunate enough to be working on a set of lights like that, then you can use a slightly larger threaded screw, and that will bite into the plastic as it goes in. So that's one. It's all sealed up, it's ready to go to the body shop. They can put their weight into it and really just work on this lens now. Number two. Here's another little interesting thing that I saw with these lights. So if you look just above the projector, there's actually a little tiny nick in the plastic. And the reason for that is that, like many lights, the actual internal piece, the bezel itself, it comes into contact with that lens. See that? Can't do anything about that. It's gonna do it even if I paint these things. So what I'll try to do, if anything, is maybe throw like a little washer or something like that to kind of sit this thing further away. Like if I put a little washer right there, that might recess it down just a tiny little bit so that this thing doesn't come into contact with that lens anymore. But if it does get painted and you just put everything back together, chances are very high that you're gonna have that little part that was touching before, and it's gonna be painted now. Now that paint is gonna transfer to the lens. It just sucks. Just kind of the nature of the beast. Some of this stuff doesn't go perfect every time. And if you don't believe me, here's one light. Here's the other light. And it has the same exact issue. And I've not done anything with this yet. And that's really annoying. Always. I can use a couple little clamps on these things once I've kind of pushed them together just a little bit. This is a technique that I do, and it's what I will do on these when I go to do the final reseal. But all it's doing is just providing all that extra clamping force that I need to close that gap, which right now is extremely easy to do because there's no extra sealant in there. But once there is extra sealant, I'm really gonna have a hard time closing everything up perfectly if I don't have some kind of extra help. Just a tiny little bit of pressure that I put on that tab, and look, it just split right down the middle. So don't beat yourself up if, as you're sealing things up, tabs are kind of fragile or things are messing up. And I'm gonna put my screws back in and take these things out to the body shop. It's easy to speak out about the way Personally, I like to use my hands as my favorite tool. I can really tell if something is about to break. I don't know if it's something about having your hands on things. These things are the best tool ever. So I encourage you, use your hands much more often instead of just grabbing a tool, and say no to being a big dumb oaf. All right, that's it for this one. I'm gonna take you further on the RX8 headlight journey. This is part two. First one was going down to San Diego, getting the lights. Now we've opened them up. I've shown you how to do that, both with the heat gun and with the oven. I've shown you how to take out the internal parts. I've talked about the stupid little things inside that touch and rub, and told you about using your hands. Whew, this sounds all kind of naughty. Now we're gonna take it to part three, which is going to the local body shop. I'll talk with them about getting the refinish done, and then I will be working on these cool internals while that's getting done. So we'll wrap up with part three next, and I will see you there.